Welcome to Back to the Future online at schools. We will be exploring how, as many countries all over the world are experiencing a return to face learning, we can capitalize on some of the positive experiences during the pandemic and not return to our old ways, but rather to a renewed learning model, taking advantage of this opportunity and the lessons learned. The title directly makes reference to the fact that there is a risk of going back to our old ways, and that there are many valuable lessons that we have learned during this period of major uncertainty, and that we can take into the future for a new model of learning. In terms of the lessons learned, the first and most important lesson is that we should develop a model of schooling that transcends the medium, and that regardless of where we are, because we have to understand that if anything, we learn that uncertainty is the norm, and that the resurgence in cases of COVID may result in many schools only being temporarily at their buildings and having to go back to school. Develop a pedagogy that transcends the medium in a way that it can be deployed regardless of where we are. And for that, we need to go through some of these lessons. In standard good practice, we always ask ourselves at the end of the lesson, what is it that we've learned that lesson? And here we must allow the two words that follow, what have we learned so far? Because again, in an ever-changing scenario, we need to revisit these lessons almost on a daily basis. The first very powerful lesson is that technology has allowed us to remain connected, and even though many of us have stayed at home, the much vilified networking through technology and the screens, it's even uh, very notable that when they want to demean the value of technology, people refer to screens. But technology is not only a gateway to learning, but also an opportunity to connect with people all over the world, and has allowed us to remain connected and productive during this pandemic. And that leads us to think that technology, indeed, if used rightly, is not dehumanizing. Of course, if any of our young students or daughters or sons are engaged in endless gaming practices that can become addictive, yes, indeed, it can become dehumanizing. And yes, it can produce some really negative effects and problems with socialization. But technology has allowed us to remain human, to remain connected throughout a time of great distancing. Another lesson is that online and virtual are not equivalent. Once I did a presentation for college students, and one of them came up and said, "Don't say virtual anymore. This is real. It's not real for you guys, but for many of us, some of these experiences are real." And one thing we've learned throughout this period, that living online is not entirely devoid of reality, and that these interactions that we're living through are here to stay. Whether we like it or not, there's going to be an increasing part of our lives that we lead and we live online, and we need to habituate to the medium, amongst other things, by developing a form of expression like with real life, like with face-to-face living. Again, it is real, that is unique to the medium, and that essentially also applies to our learning process. We need to find ways in which we develop learning paradigms that are unique and that are native to the medium, and not merely a translation of the face-to-face model. In our business and education, we have found, for once and all, that many of these false dogmas have been toppled. In many countries, there haven't been any numeric grades. There hasn't been any standardized massive exams. And we've all lived and we've all learned. Engagement and motivation have been the key, and many of these dogmas have not resulted in anything valuable anymore. Another powerful lesson is that when we're on the screen, and people have reported, teachers have reported increasing levels of engagement in some cases, it's because we're all on the same plane, and we are entering a medium that is native to our students. And contrary to the situation in most schools, where the teacher is standing up and looking literally down on students, in the case of the online medium, we're all on the same plane, and that allows for a more unique way of interaction with our students, that is not so asymmetrical as it was before. A few years back, I had the opportunity of going to Finland, and this is what they chose to say to us in one of the lectures, in one of the presentations that they made about schools. And it indicates how important it is for one of the countries that is rightly recognized as leading the world in education, that the key to the whole thing is engagement. And one of the ways to foster engagement is to use some of these social digital technologies, and understanding by that the use of devices and social networking to engage students within a language that becomes familiar for them. So As we set out to develop some of the basics of this new model, we need to explore some applications that can be meaningful to students and that can really not just translate the face-to-face medium, but provide interactions that are unique to the medium. One of them has to do with text analysis and processing, and that is closely related to the development coupled with fast processing abilities and fast networking speeds of AI, of artificial intelligence. In particular, this very well-known field of natural language processing allows you to enter a field of text. For example, in the Watson engine, Watson is very well known as being one of the leading developments of AI. A few years back, very publicly, Watson beat the champions at Jeopardy. And even though that event was recognized as probably the singularity of Ray Kurzweil when machines become more intelligent but than humans. We're still far from that being a reality, and that's simply for the reason that many times technology tends to get extrapolated to make predictions of things that it will not yet or is not yet ready to do. In this case, of course, Jeopardy as chess, as lately Go defeated by the AlphaZero Google engine, are applications that are sort of custom made for an AI. In the case of Jeopardy, even though it requires natural language processing, at the end of the day, is fast retrieval of information. And that doesn't mean that machines have become more intelligent than humans. So going back to Watson, again, like many other text engines, you can enter any body of text and it will recognize entities, words, syntax, meaning. It will find different references, names, geographic locations, etc. So, and this is freely accessible. I will be holding a session in a few days where we will be exploring hands-on these applications. Text Racer is another one, another very advanced application, and that has a demo very interesting for, especially for the analysis of large volumes of text, where the AI processing makes a lot of sense, especially in the area of summarization. There are two types of summarization. Extractive works by eliminating the sentences that are less relevant by processing the text. The AI algorithm reduces the size of the text by a percentage that can in many cases be estimated or stipulated within the software by eliminating the sentences that are less relevant and computing those words that have more meaning. And the other medium, or the other method, better said, is abstractive summarization, where the AI engine produces a completely new piece of text by preserving the meaning and interpreting and rewriting it. This is not yet available. As far as I know, there are some prototypes under development, but this is not yet a technology that is mature and that holds a lot of promise in terms of vast amounts of text processing. During our session, we will explore some of these. SDL, Content and Assistant, for example, is one of the most advanced natural language processing application. Another fascinating application of AI, one that is still on, and again under an early development, but has a lot of fun implications, is personality insights. Again, Watson, you can enter your Twitter profile, any other social network, or a large volume of text, and it will construct a personality profile and even provide a diagram where it maps out the different attributes and values. The way it works is it provides a certain weight to words and the construction of phrases based on, again, hundreds of millions of items in a database, and it can construct a scarily accurate social profile of the person based on, again, these inferences. It also has a really interesting, powerful engine for visual recognition. You can upload photos and it will recognize some of the entities there. Visual recognition and pattern recognition in general has some tantalizing future applications. On a lighter side, Google Quick Draw and Auto Draw are two applications that allow the machine to intelligently complete your doodles. And it's uncanny, again, how they are able to complete these drawings, and they give a really interesting application of artificial intelligence. Semantics is a Tetris-like arcade game where you have to uh, shape up the different piles and the complex constructions of Tetris based on the meaning and the similarities between certain words. Infranodus is a very advanced German tool for network analysis. It provides neural analysis of text. It's freely available within a demo. Again, we will demonstrate it during our session. And you can enter very vast volumes of text, and it will even compare different texts and analyzing the underlying networks and the main meaning of certain items of text in ways that are really insightful and very interesting. The field of machine learning involves that computers learn through experience by replicating either through a model or a human. The teachable machine demo is a fascinating one that includes audio and visuals and that can recognize your facial expressions, your tone of voice in a way that again demonstrates some of the potential of AI. MIT Moral Machine makes you decide upon various scenarios that have to do with AI and some of the decisions that have to be made, and it raises some really interesting ethical implications regarding artificial intelligence. I write like very fun to play with, especially in the school context. You can enter any item of writing, and it will compare that item of writing with some of the famous authors by matching with the closest match with a famous author. Again, lots of fun. My goodness asks you to make decisions in terms of how you would decide to give to people, and it compares to what other people have given, how would they proceed on certain charitable situations. And it is a really interesting and very profound sociological study for different profiles. MIT Detect Fakes is a really, again, very interesting exercise where especially young people are able to detect these deep fakes. And the reason why we need to develop a new model, and we need to think of these applications, is that students need to learn not only how to become proficient users of technology, but also understand the ethical implications of technology in a way that will prepare them for changes in the future. Um, this is an article that I wrote a couple of weeks ago regarding what we do in education many times, that we are not our best advocates for the general public. When we call this the hybrid model of schooling, we're actually saying something that doesn't really excite anybody. A hybrid is something that lacks identity. In many cases in biology, hybrid species cannot reproduce and they have no offspring. What I intended to say in that article is that we need to create a completely new model of schooling, and that is very, very strongly correlated with developing native interactions, native applications, so that when indeed we go back to schools, we can transcend the medium and develop a model that becomes, as the phrase there says, online at school. There is no reason not to do what we do online at schools. It's much better. It allows us to develop the social emotional aspect of education, but we should be able to break away from the very rigid structures of learning of classrooms, which again are very, very much anchored to the physical spaces in the school. So this is the presentation. There's my email address. I hope you can write to me. If all goes well after the playing of the video, this will result in a series of questions and answers, which I hope will be interesting for all involved. Thank you very much.